So welcome to New York Buddha Dharma, everyone. And this meeting we're going to start by doing the 16 incantations that Rochelle taught about last week.
John, pull the mic a little closer to you.
Oh, sorry. Hello. How's that? That's better? You think that's loud enough? Okay. So we'll just start out, we're going to read them through completely, and then we'll do it 4 times. Read them through completely 4 times. Are we ready? The first set of incantations is, suffering should be seen, the origin of suffering should be avoided, the goal should be attained, the path should be actualized. The second set of incantations is, suffering should be realized as impermanent, the origin of suffering should be realized as impermanent, the goal should be realized as impermanent, the path should be realized as impermanent. The third set of incantations is, suffering should be seen clearly, the origin of suffering should be seen clearly, the goal should be seen clearly, the path should be seen clearly. The fourth set of incantations is, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no goal, no path. The first set of incantations is, suffering should be seen, the origin of the suffering should be avoided, the goal should be attained, the path should be actualized. The second set of incantations is, suffering should be realized as impermanent, the origin of suffering should be realized as impermanent, the goal should be realized as impermanent, the path should be realized as impermanent. The third set of incantations is, suffering should be seen clearly, the origin of suffering should be seen clearly, the goal should be seen clearly, the path should be seen clearly. The fourth set of incantations is, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no goal, no path. The first set of incantations is, suffering should be seen, the origin of the suffering should be avoided, the goal should be attained, the path should be actualized. The second set of incantations is, suffering should be realized as impermanent, the origin of suffering should be realized as impermanent, the goal should be realized as impermanent, the path should be realized as impermanent. The third set of incantations is, suffering should be seen clearly, the origin of suffering should be seen clearly, the goal should be seen clearly, the path should be seen clearly. The fourth set of incantations is, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no goal, no path. The first set of incantations is, suffering should be seen, the origin of the suffering should be avoided, the goal should be attained, the path should be actualized. The second set of incantations is, suffering should be realized as impermanent, the origin of suffering should be realized as impermanent, the goal should be realized as impermanent, the path should be realized as impermanent. The third set of incantations is, suffering should be seen clearly, the origin of suffering should be seen clearly, the goal should be seen clearly, the path should be seen clearly. The fourth set of incantations is, no suffering, no origin of suffering, no goal, no path. So tonight, the subject of shamatha-vipashyana meditation, the bringing together of the two, figures very strongly in the subject matter of the reading that you did or didn't do from the Profound Treasury. So I'm going to guide you in shamatha-vipashyana practice tonight. and then we'll talk about it. So taking a good posture. In the readings, Trungpa Rinpoche said this practice is essential for the entrance into shunyata, and it is really what enables you to enter into the understanding and experience of emptiness, of shunyata. So it's very important. So, with a good straight back, release any tension in your neck or your shoulders if you have any. Let your belly relax. Take a deep breath. Release any tension in your face, your forehead, your eyes, mouth, cheeks. And now bring your awareness into this room, into the space of this room, this present moment. Your awareness is completely relaxed, effortless. You just come present, and it's broad, your awareness. It fills the space, figuratively speaking, and it encompasses not only the space, but everything that arises in the space. Objects of sight, sound, if there are any of smell and taste, touch, and mental events that arise in the space of this present moment all pass through the space like images in a mirror. They are part of the space. And our awareness is just resting here, effortless. This is vipassana, or vipassana, awareness meditation. And now, in the middle of all this space, this awareness, without ever leaving it, you become aware of a highlight, as it were, of the breath as it rises in your body, exits your nostrils or your lips, depending on which you're using. And it goes out into this space, like a line going out on water. It dissolves. And at the end of the out-breath, you just let go. And then the breath comes up again in the middle of all this space. You never leave this space. You're always just right here. But the breath comes up like a line drawn on a piece of paper. And it goes out into the space, dissolving. And at the end of the out-breath, you just let go, and you're nowhere. And then the breath comes up, goes out, makes a line into the space. You never leave this space. You just see the line going out into it. And it dissolves, and you just let go. So we'll just do that for a while. Eyes are open. You're aware of anything and everything. There are no interruptions in this practice. Everything is included. So whatever you're thinking, just see it. No problem. Don't judge yourself. It's not good or bad. And as soon as you see it, you're awake, you're back, and you go out with the breath, dissolving into the space. And then at the end of the out-breath, just let go. So we're all right here in the room. The breath goes out, makes a line, dissolves, and let go. So, whatever thought you might be having, see it, let it go. Bring your awareness back into this room, this space, with the cushions and the floorboards and the sound of this voice, bodily sensations. And in the middle of all this, the breath goes out, makes a line, dissolving, and at the end you just let go and you're here or anywhere. So if anyone would like to stand up and stretch, you're welcome to do that. The recording's still going? Right? It is? Okay. So let's bow in. Good evening, everyone. Whoops. Say that again. Good evening, everyone. So, we are nearing the end of Volume 1 of the Profound Treasury of the Ocean of Dharma. We're on Chapter 65. And the subject so far has been the first of the 5 paths. These are the path of accumulation, the path of unification, the path of vision, which is really the entrance into the Mahayana, the path of meditation, and then the path of no more learning. The first path, the path of accumulation, is divided into 3, the lesser, middle, and greater. And we are on the greater path. This is the approach to pratyeka Buddhahood and arhatship, which is really the culmination of the Hinayana stage of the path. This is where the practitioner achieves the Hinayana freedom from suffering, which is permanent if it's fully achieved. It's still not enlightenment. The person is not yet a bodhisattva, has not entered the Mahayana path, but it's quite profound because it's the discovery of egolessness, which is what allows the person to transcend and become free of suffering. And it's the end of personal suffering, and one ceases at this point, when you achieve that, ceases to do harm to others, anybody. You have the ability not to do that. The key to the greater path of accumulation is the practice that we just did tonight. We do on the path doing shamatha practice. Shamatha practice means that we're focusing on the breath, perhaps even counting the breaths. We can do shamatha practice, in fact it's most commonly done with our eyes closed. And the idea is that it's one-pointed focus on an object. It has a number of virtues. One is that the first virtue, first thing one experiences when one begins to do shamatha, is that one becomes aware of the extent to which one has been thinking, and is thinking all the time. Because many people, as they live their lives, are simply unaware of the degree to which they're lost in thought. And that goes even for us. It might go for experienced meditators. Because when you're lost in thought, you're lost in thought. You're not aware that you're thinking. And then we come to and we realize, I had a thought, but we may not realize the extent to which we have been thinking throughout the day, lost in dreams. But the more you practice shamatha, the more you become aware of that. Because as you try to focus on the breath, you realize that your thoughts are taking you away. That's the first virtue of shamatha. The second virtue of shamatha is that one achieves a kind of peace. Thoughts are riddled with anxiety. That's what drives thoughts. Thoughts are always about me. I, the hero or the heroine of our little plays and dramas that we think out in our brains. And those plays and dramas, just like any play and drama on TV or in a movie or in a book, is fraught with anxiety, with tension. Will the hero or the heroine avoid the peril and win the prize? That's what stories are made of. And it's very tiring. And when one cuts through those thoughts, you achieve a profound rest. So Organ Chowang Rinpoche, in his book, Our Pristine Mind, says that it's like having a really good nap. I thought that was pretty funny, but that's what it is. See, we are achieving freedom from me, which is a huge problem. Me and my problems. That's what me is. Me is an ongoing problem that needs resolution, solving. And if you solve it, then you got to go on to the next one. Because me, needs a constant occupation. And what that occupation is some form of tension. So with shamatha, we begin to cut through that and achieve a rest. And the third virtue of shamatha is that we begin to develop the capacity to focus our minds on something rather than just sort of being lost in monkey mind and thought. And what we're focusing on is awareness. We're coming back to an awareness. In this case, a very simple one-pointed awareness of whatever it might be. It might be a mantra if we're practicing TM. It might be the breath if we're Buddhists. It could be a rupa, a statue that you've placed in front of you. Not that having any religious symbolic significance just clutters it up, actually. It's just all you want is an object to focus your mind on. Still objects are the easiest thing. They're easier than the breath because the breath is always moving. So it's a little harder to maintain one's focus on the breath than it is on a still object. Same thing with mantra. A little harder because it's moving, the sound. And so we develop this ability to focus the mind in awareness, even though it's only one point in awareness. This kind of practice, which is most commonly done with the eyes closed, is not something you would want to do while you're driving your car. If you opened your eyes and you're still working with awareness of the breath, well, you're not aware of what's going on the road as much as you should be because you're focusing on the breath. So it's not practical in terms of awareness of daily life, but it is very, very helpful at achieving peace and learning how to focus one's mind instead of being just constantly drifting in thought. Vipassana is what comes second, or vipassana, to use the Pali term, usually translated as either insight meditation or awareness meditation practice. And there, instead of focusing one pointedly on an object, one has a very wide awareness. Trungpa Rinpoche used to call it panoramic awareness. And that's not literal, but it gives you an idea of what the feel is. We're resting in the space with our eyes open so that we can be aware of whatever is going on. If somebody walks in the door, we're aware. We're not disturbed because they're part of the space. Within this space, the six knowables arise. Six knowables are objects of sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, and mind. Now normally, we think that if an object appears, like someone walks in the door, we think that there's an object which is, has a past and a future, is independent, is one thing, and it's moving across the floor towards us, perhaps. But from the point of view of Vipassana, it's somewhat different. Rather, we are in a field of awareness. It's like an ocean of space. And within that space, things are arising and passing away. Instead of me turning my head and looking at Joe now and at Lane now and at the camera there and at the floor there, and the idea is that I am doing this, you could say that within the space, Joe is arising, Lane is arising, the camera is appearing, the floor is appearing, the sound of this voice is appearing, suddenly the sensation of my bottom on the cushion is arising. All of these things arise and pass away within the space. And one of the analogies that's given for this is it's like a mirror. When you look in a mirror and you see objects in the mirror, you don't think these things actually exist in the mirror. They are just modulations of the glass. Same thing with space, exactly. And so with Vipassana, we are resting in space because it's completely effortless. With shamatha, there was effort involved. We had to focus. We had to bring our mind back from thought and focus our mind on the breath. With Vipassana, we are just coming back to an awareness that is always there, this awareness of the environment. And you could say that you are letting your awareness expand into the environment, sort of fill the room, figuratively speaking. You don't want to take it too literally, because then you go looking, well, am I getting into that corner? Am I getting into that corner? You know, how far out of the door do I need to get? That's silly. But you are just having this wide, open, easy, effortless awareness. That's the amazing thing. It's effortless. And it's so important that it be effortless. That really is moving towards Buddha nature. Because Buddhahood, which is within us already, is not something we have to exercise or create. It's something we come to, we discover, we rediscover. And it's the same thing with Vipassana. Really what we're doing is we are beginning to rediscover our Buddha nature, our awareness, our wisdom in this space. And the space is the union of knowingness and space. Yin and Yeshe, as they say in the Tibetan. The yin is the space, Yeshe is wisdom. And it's wisdom, that's the way it's usually translated, but what it really means is that it's knowing that is primordial. It's knowing that has no beginning, no origin. It's always been like that. There was never a beginning to it. That's the Ye. The Ye means primordial. And She is knowingness. And that's what it pervades this space that we are in the middle of. And with Vipassana, we are just letting our mind go out into that. And really, it isn't even our mind. We're just reconnecting with Yeshe in the yin, in the space. Now, there's something more to it. And these are the two practices that we learn when we come onto the path. The first one is shamatha, and we spend some time doing shamatha. What I like is that in America, when people come to these kinds of meetings, they've usually done shamatha somewhere. They've practiced in a yoga studio. That's shamatha. That's what's given to you in a yoga studio. They've done transcendental meditation. That's shamatha. Somewhere or other, they've met shamatha. Many people who say, yes, I've meditated before. So we can start working right away on vipassana. We don't have to spend time on the shamatha as much with a lot of people. Some people, occasionally you meet people who are brand new, who've never meditated before in their lives, and you want to start them with shamatha first. But then we come to vipassana, and we've got these two pieces now, the shamatha piece and the vipassana piece, and you can do both, And mostly, people who have learned vipassana will do vipassana. And the shamatha is still there, in a way, because you're bringing your mind back to, you're cutting through thought, and you're coming back to the awareness of space. And that action of coming back, that's the focus that you learn in shamatha. But now you're applying it to vipassana. And instead of coming back to a breath, one thing, or a mantra, you're coming back to awareness of the environment that you're in. Very realistic. It's your life. But there's another thing, an element. There's a next step to go, and this is what the subject of this chapter is about. And that is this, that the very essence of confusion, the error that starts confusion off, the error that leads to belief in an I, is that in the middle of all this space, we focus on one thing. We say, there's Joe. And suddenly everything else recedes into relative unimportance. We have created a figure, and all the rest has become ground, and we're not paying any attention to the ground. We're only paying attention to the figure. Hi, Joe. How are you, Joe? Do you like me, Joe? And we start getting into this whole relationship. Do I like Joe? Does Joe like me? That's always what basically happens in a relationship with anything. With that cushion, do I like it? Is it for me, against me, or is it neutral? the three possibilities in an I-other relationship. So we are ignoring. This is the fundamental error. This is what ignorance is. It's called avidya, not seeing. That's what avidya means. It's usually translated as ignorance. Trungpa Rinpoche said it's ignoring. Ignoring what? Or ignorant of what? The ground. We're focusing on the figure. And we're ignoring the ground. So the next practice, beyond shamatha and vipassana, is to bring the two together. Shamatha and vipassana. And this is what we were doing tonight. We rest in the space, and the breath, the figure, goes out into it and dissolves. We never leave the space. Our awareness is right here in the space. But the breath goes out just like a line drawn on a piece of paper or a line drawn on water. And we're combining the two, that focus on the figure as well as awareness of the ground. We're not ignoring it. We're bringing it back. And when we begin to do that, that opens up the world. You see, this is the next step into emptiness, into shunyata. Shunyata is the awareness that things have no true existence. If we're just focused on the figure, the cushion, the person, the chair, whatever it is, my hand, then there is no awareness of the non-existence of the thing. We take it to be truly existent. That hand exists. I got to protect it. I got to take care of my body. Worry about it. I have to do that. But when one begins to see the figure in the ground, and the figure is always dissolving into the ground, just like this hand moving through space. You could say a hand's moving through space, or you could say that the space is pixelating, and dot, 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 like that. And when you say the space is pixelating like a computer screen, then there is no object, just as there is no object on a computer screen. It's just a change in color of the space. This is when we begin to experience the true meaning of egolessness and the true meaning of shunyata. It's the combining of those two, shamatha and vipassana, that we're aware of the figure and we maintain the awareness of the ground. It's much more intelligent. We're not ignoring anything. We're not ignoring the ground. We're right here for all of it. So this practice is really the entrance, it's the precursor to shunyata meditation. It's really brilliant, isn't it? I mean, for years, Trungpa Rinpoche taught this to us, and we always wondered why. And then a teacher named Khenpo Namdrol came to Shambhala Mountain Center years ago, and he was teaching Dzogchen, the Great Perfection. And he gave us a practice. What? Shamatha-vipashyana. That's what he gave us. We'd all been wondering where this practice came from, because we didn't see anybody else teaching it except Trungpa Rinpoche. And then this fellow shows up and he starts teaching it and calling it Great Perfection practice. It's very powerful. So really it's terrific. We should do all of it. We should do the shamatha, the vipassana, and the shamatha-vipashyana, especially the last. He says, now we have the practice of being mindful, that's the focus of shamatha, and aware, that's the awareness of vipassana, at the same time. Shamatha-vipashyana. I think I'm going to stop at this point. This is so important. I'd like to see if anybody wants to talk about it, have any questions or comments. Marie. Mike. There's over on the table. And we want the one with a button on the bottom. Yeah, thank you. That's good.
I was wondering. No.
Is it green? We might need more batteries. There are some batteries in my briefcase. Batteries? got batteries in this briefcase. There's one. We need two.
Is the other mic over there?
That doesn't work, I don't think. We have two batteries there?
There's no rechargeable in there?
Huh?
There's no rechargeable batteries in there?
Well, there might be. Yes. Hi.
Is
There
on
you,
the wall?
there you, on the wall. Yeah, there are a couple of rechargeable batteries.
So I was wondering when you said that shamatha-vipashyana combination was taught only by Chögyam Trungpa Rinpoche. So is this typical to Tibetan Buddhism, this kind of meditation, or it's just this teacher, like this lineage? Like
I really don't know the provenance of it. I assume it must have gone back all the way to India, in Indian Buddhism, but I'm not sure. But other people are teaching it now. I mean, like Khenpo Namdrol teaches it. And I am going to ask him, I'm going to be seeing him in September. And I actually been commissioned by a fellow student to ask Khenpo Namdrol where and to tell more about shamatha-vipashyana practice, which he has taught, and tell us where it comes from and what its provenance is.
Like in Galopa lineage, they don't practice this kind of meditation?
I assume they do.
Okay.
But I don't know. I'm not a Gelug.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering if it was something which was just introduced by Chögyam Trungpa.
No. I don't think it was introduced by Chögyam Trungpa. He was taught this by. In fact, he says that he was taught this by Jamgon Kongtrul, who is his teacher.
Okay.
Now, I'll just say this about this, that it's so important that this practice, what he says in this chapter, and we can discuss this, it's really an exploration, is what saves us from the realms, especially the lower realms, but actually all of what's called the realm of desire. Now, to understand this, some of you already know this, but I'm going to go over it again, that samsara, confusion, is divided primarily into three sections. What's called the realm of pure form. Well, the top one, where there's the least desire and the greatest clarity, is called the realm of the formless realm. The second one down, where there's more desire and a little less clarity, is called the realm of pure form. And then the third one, which is where we're living, is called the realm of desire. And this is where desire is the heaviest, passion is the heaviest, emotions, and confusion is the greatest. Now the realm of desire, it's called the Kama Dhatu. Kama means desire, like maybe you've heard of the Kama Sutra. That was a big popular thing, this manual on how to have sex, supposedly Hindu thing. And Kama means desire. And Dhatu is realm or sphere or area. And the Kama Dhatu is divided into 6. Loka, like in locus, location. It means an area. 6 areas, 6 loka. And these are, in descending order, the God realm, the God loka, Deva loka, the realm of the jealous gods, the asuras, the asura loka, the realm of the human beings, and I forget what the word is for humans, and their loka, the animals. Now we're going into the lower realms, the 3 lower realms. These are the ones you really, really don't want to be in. The animal realm, and then below that, the realm of the hungry ghosts. These are beings who are suffering from extreme feelings of poverty, deprivation, hunger. And beneath that, the lowest of the realms is the hell realm. Now the God realm, which is the highest of the realms in the world of desire, is actually, you see these 2 areas above that, the rupa dhatu and the arupa dhatu, the realm of pure form and the realm of the formless realm, they're God realms too. The one that we have in the kama dhatu is the lowest of the God realms. This is where gods really have more desire and they actually have forms. By the time you got to the formless realm, remember these 3. They call them sometimes they're called the 3 worlds. And when you get to the very top one, the formless realm, it's a pure abstraction. It's nothing but a mental place, and you are just in a trance. And there is no you really. There's just the most sketchiest version of I, and there's just this idea of focus on the very most abstract, faint object. And it's very, very thin, it's very attenuated, and it's very ethereal, and it's very blissful. But like anything else that's created, you see, you create these states, these are states of concentration. Like anything else, it's impermanent. And sooner or later, it's going to wear out. And you'll go down to the lower realms, sooner or later. And they say that the higher up you go, and the more time you spend there, up in these states of blissful concentration, the worse the descent is, because there's this tremendous feeling of loss of this privilege and wealth and the benefit that you had. You know what it's like when you lose something that you were taking for granted that was a benefit to you, and you feel so deprived and so impoverished. Well, imagine what a god must feel as they fall. Huh?
It's like traveling first class.
It's like what?
It's like traveling first class in an airplane.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you're being put down to economy, and you're like, oh, really?
Yeah. That's good.
What if you weren't taking it for granted?
Yeah.
You can't not, because it takes so much work to get there, and then you're enjoying it, and you don't want it to go. Now, even in that very, very blissful state, there's a faint touch of suffering. And what that suffering is the knowledge in the back of your mind that it's not going to last. That it was created, and like all things that are created, it has to pass. And it's going to wear out sooner or later. And that is the faintest little touch of suffering that people in the realm of the formless gods experience.
But if you I've forgotten now. So, like the suffering, you need the suffering to know, and then to know. But then at the same time, the suffering is a good thing because you understand yourself and you're more stripped down to understand the better part.
Gods are stupid. That's what they're stupid because they're lost in a daze of pleasure.
But holding on to the suffering, like we do, we like to hold on, don't we? We like to.
I don't think so.
People do. They like to dwell on it, and they like to moan about it every day. Oh, it's all terrible. Things are terrible, and it's that consistent. Is what I find is a lot of people hold on to it, and to own it, and then let it go.
But don't you think that the reason that they're holding on to it and dwelling on it is because if they appreciate how awful it is, it implies how great it's going to be when they get rid of it.
Exactly. But can't let go.
We,
of
and
that.
I'm speaking for myself
Yeah.
and all of us, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes it's very difficult to let go of it, isn't it?
Yeah, because the opportunity that it offers you, is there too.
Yeah.
You think, oh God, if I could only overcome this,
Yeah.
then it'd be terrific.
It'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
But own it. Enjoy it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And then it goes.
So the only cure for these realms is shamatha-vipashyana. And the reason it's the both of them together is because it's the most realistic state of mind. The way we go on the path is that first we experience shamatha. That's how we come to the path. We practice this. When I met Trungpa Rinpoche, I had been meditating for, 2 years. And that was enough. And I'd been meditating, doing shamatha. That's what I was doing. And he asked me to meditate for him when I had an interview. And I sat there and I closed my eyes and I started watching my breath. And he said, open your eyes. By the way, I have something to recommend. A friend of mine, Jim Lowry, one of the original Pygmies. Pygmies were a commune that was in Colorado, and they became some of the first students of Trungpa Rinpoche when he came to Colorado in the United States in 1970 and 71. And he's written a book. It's called Taming Untamable Beings. You see, there's a chant. We could do it. And it goes, it's to Trungpa Rinpoche. I think it was written, it might have been written by Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche. I can't remember who. And it goes, you who have realized the dharmata of what is, with oceans of skillful deeds of a Buddha's child, you possess the Buddha activity which tames untamable beings. May your body, speech, and mind be established in the Vajra nature. And so Jim titled his book about the pygmies, these hippies who came. Oh, it was a total commune, yeah. But there were a lot of people around, and he wrote about that whole period, taming untamable beings. And in it, there's some stuff that is very, very advanced. Is that the word I want? It's meant to be secret. It's meant to be secret. What happened, you see, is that Trungpa Rinpoche was giving people, whatever you want to call it, transmission, pointing out, meeting of the minds, right and left. Everybody who came to him, they would come and you'd ask for an interview and sit down with him, and he would give this pointing out instruction. It's the most profound gift a teacher can give a student. There's a chapter in that book where Jim has gotten first-person accounts from individuals who received this from Trungpa Rinpoche, and he's written them out, and you can read them. Some of them, I don't know if I found them very powerful, but that may be me, I don't know, and you can have to see. But it's a wonderful book. It starts out, I love it, and this will give you the tone of the book. You got to realize these people were doing drugs like there was no tomorrow. I mean, I thought I had taken a lot of psychedelics and that kind of thing. Not like the pygmies. They were in another world. I mean, and so, yeah, anyhow, they were terrific. And the book starts out, he quotes somebody, you don't know who it is. He says, if you can remember the 60s, you weren't there. Famous quote. Yeah, it's a good one. And it's a terrific story. I mean, everybody was coming out from the hate Ashbury, and nobody had any money, and everybody was doing weird things to make some money, like making leather clothes and making pipes to smoke marijuana in, and out of deer antler and all this stuff. I'm good. Okay, just a little bit. Thanks. And it's a great read. It's really fun. I mean, I loved it, and I'll just confess, I'm in it. So
All over the book.
Yeah, well, but it's. I think it would give you an insight into what a relationship with a Vajra master can be like.
Was the book called
Huh? Taming Untamable Beings. And, huh? It's on Amazon. There are a few funny mistakes in it that I've got to tell Jim to correct in his next edition. He has Padmasambhava arriving in Tibet in the 9th century, and a few other things. So, this is why shamatha-vipashyana is so important for us, that it saves us from the lower realms. It's what begins to wake us up out of our obsession with me. Precision and space. That's shamatha and vipassana. The shamatha is the precision, the vipassana is the space, and that's what Rinpoche calls it. Figure and ground simultaneously. They're together. One. He says this is really good. I've been wondering, he talks about how you go out with the breath, it dissolves, and then sometimes he says, and there's a gap. And I'm thinking, gap? What's the gap? You go out with the breath, it dissolves, and you let go. Let go. Let go where? Here's what he says. When the breathing dissolves, it is taking place in the whole universe, and you are, in a sense, nowhere. When the breathing dissolves, you are nowhere. Finally, you lose the reference point as to who is breathing and where the breath is dissolving. That's worth reading over and over again. You're losing your reference point. You're losing location, locus. The breath is going out. It's dissolving in space. I mean, this space is infinite, right? This world. I keep thinking of, forgive me, I'm going to quote again Eric Idle's The Galaxy song. The universe keeps on expanding and expanding as fast as it can go, as fast as it can whiz. At the speed of light, that's 12 million miles a minute, and that's the fastest speed there is. Just expanding at 12 million miles a minute, 186,000 miles a second. And they're thinking that it's expanding even faster now, just in the newspaper the other day. And we think, I'm going from here to there. I'm going from birth to death. I'm going from New York to San Francisco. My breath is going out about 3 feet and then it's dissolving. Ha! And what he says is, in this chapter, it goes out into nowhere. It's in the whole universe. Finally, you lose the reference point as to who is breathing and where the breath is dissolving. Desolate space and precision and accuracy simultaneously, all of it. Desolate. And he still haven't touched shunyata, but this is the precursor. This is the approach. And he says the reason that we haven't touched shunyata, this is really interesting, is because there is still a subtle sense of self. There's the person who's doing it. How am I doing it right? I'm experiencing this meditation. This is my meditation. How long shall I meditate? And there's that sense of me, my progress, where I am on the path. And that has to go. He says, although the heaviest part of the neurosis has been removed, there is still a feeling of duality, of I and something else. Abiding in the teachings and the practice itself. He says, with practice, your belief in physical existence, this is a good one. Oh boy, this is one to contemplate. He says, your belief in physical existence is being pulled apart. Physical existence is being pulled apart. But you still believe in the discontinuity. There is still some kind of trust that you are going to continue. I'm going to continue, I. And you have a practice to work with. So although you lose your body, you can still practice. You can still think you're sitting here and you've got completely mental place, and yet there's still that sense of I'm practicing. And then he talks about some other things that I'm not going to go into so much. 4 legs of miracles, which it's talking about sort of the description of this practice. And then he says, thus this third stage of the path of accumulation is extremely important. It is the last possibility for an ordinary person to be able to transform himself or herself into a higher person, a noble person. And this is the way you do it. So that's why it's called the Greater Path of Accumulation. He says it's the only way that you, us, an ordinary person, not an arhat, not a pratyeka Buddha, not a bodhisattva, could become one of the noble ones. So then finally, in the third stage of the path of accumulation, you are approaching the pratyeka Buddhayana. That's the self-enlightened Buddha. That's where you really do achieve the one-fold egolessness. That means you understand that I doesn't exist. You have a sense of freedom, liberation, and emancipation. You discover that you are about to cut the realm of desire, the kama dhatu, and enter the desireless realms. Shamatha-vipashyana practice is the only one that could bring you to that supernormal, superhuman level. There is no other way. That's pretty clear-cut, I would say. There is no other way. So we really need to be doing this. For years, I've thought that the pure vipassana, just resting in space, was more advanced. And in a way, it is at a later date. But at this stage of my path and of our paths, the practice, really the most profound practice that we can do is shamatha-vipashyana. And that will take us on into this clear, open awareness of shunyata, which is really the ultimate extension of vipassana. So that's what we need to do. We've learned shamatha, we've learned vipassana, now we bring them together. And we're seeing the figure in the ground. And we're overcoming ignorance, ignoring the ground. So we could have more discussion. Rochelle. What? Can we pause? If we do, we pause it, then we get 2 different recordings. So I'd rather not.
I wanted to say something.
What?
The practice. One thing I noticed is that when people practice meditation, they're more apt in post-meditation to relate to others in the present moment. But people who don't practice are always referring to the past events. Even things that happened to them 50 years ago. All their references are so far away from right now. And after a while you realize, right now, there's nothing happening for them. It's always just memories. So I think that's why also practicing really helps us to relate to the present moment in post-meditation too.
Well said. It might help us give up resentments for past hurts.
Yeah.
Or things like that.
And Rinpoche also used to say that without meditation there's no way in and there's no way out.
Anybody who's a student of Dzogchen Ponlop want to comment on from his point of view? It's working.
I just think it's interesting because I've been going through the whole study path of how you dismantle the self, you know, the chariot, the Vajra slivers, you know, all these techniques that are very complex, you know, from the Lyric about, you know, taking apart this belief in self from a very intellectual point of view, and this technique is the counterpart, that's the experiential way. So it's beautiful to see that coming together.
Mm-hmm. Daria, could you number that second, not that knob, but the one next to it? Yes, can you turn that up a little bit? Thank you.
Test, test.
That's better. Yeah. So you've been studying the intellectual side of it a lot.
Yeah, it's hardcore.
Yeah. Huh?
Very irritating.
Irritating?
Yeah, the whole process.
But you have to combine it with the practice.
Yeah.
The practice is the key. You know, and in an earlier chapter he said, if you only study, it's like turning on your car and revving the engine without ever putting it in gear. The way you put it in gear is with practice. Yeah. But together the two are very powerful. Yeah. I mean, the study with practice really is so important because it helps you discover things in your practice. Don't you think? Matthew?
So I've been practicing almost a year now, and one thing I've noticed is
Hold it up.
first thing in the morning, getting to the practice on the cushion is probably the hardest part, and then I noticed a lot of very misty in my mind first thing in the morning, and then as soon as I've done 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I'm ready to go, and I'm like, it's like a real energy boost, you know, like someone's put some batteries in me and I'm good. But the amazing thing is I'm a little bit more open and understanding to people when I get to work, and find it very beneficial and rewarding to them, I think. So yeah, it does good things. But
Great.
just getting there
That's
is the
wonderful.
hardest point, isn't it?
It's the hardest part
Yeah.
of meditation practice. It absolutely is.
Mm.
The hardest part is getting your butt down on the seat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I find if you have a partner, that can be a big help because you pull each other, you know. And I've got a couple of partners, and we meditate together, not in the same physical location, but on Skype or FaceTime. And I know that at 9 o'clock, you know, or whatever the time we've set is, they're going to be there waiting for me, looking for me, calling me, you know. And so I have to get up and do it. You know, it's a good way.
Yeah, we should do that.
You could do that. Absolutely, you could. You could set. In fact, we could do it all together. We could set up a group that would meet in the mornings. Let's talk about this. I've been thinking about this. Would you like to do that?
Absolutely.
Yes? What time?
Well, I wake up very early.
What time we've been meeting? I could get 8:30. Is that too late? I mean, I can get up early, but some of the other people, huh? Are you at work?
7. I would have to do it
At 7? Wow. Maybe I could do it at 7 and then again at... I'd just be meditating the whole morning with people. Uh-huh.
7. I honestly rather not commit.
Huh?
I said I honestly rather not commit. I need a little flexibility around my meditation times.
Anybody else? What about you, Matthew? Huh?
I'll do
7? 8? Yeah, I like 8. How about you, Marie?
I work from 7 a.m.
You work from 7 a.m.? Oh, okay.
I have to call my employer between 8 and 8:30 to find out if I'm going in.
Okay.
So before that is sort of,
So you would like it to be like at 8:30?
8:30 is.
All right, I'm going to pick a time and talk to some other people, and I'll let everybody know, okay? Are you on the mailing list, Daria? Huh?
I can do on Fridays though.
All right, I think what we ought to do is, everybody who's interested in this, write your email address down before you leave tonight, and I'll pick a time and send it out, and we'll just try it. And I mean, this is done a lot now. You know that, for instance, I have a friend up in Westchester who he has an office, and they have Zoom, and they have a lot of equipment, and every morning at 8:30, a whole bunch of people around the country meet on Zoom and meditate together. Some of them are physically in that office in Westchester, but a lot of them are they're virtually on a wall. You know, he projects it up on the wall. Now with us, if we use Skype, we'll see our faces on a screen. I've got to look into Zoom. Zoom is better than Skype, but we'll start with Skype. And we've already got 3 people. Huh?
How long do you think we're going to do it?
How long would we meditate? Well, that's the thing. See, we'll probably meditate an hour, but you can drop off. You can just, people do. Right now, people are doing
I
that.
think an hour I would literally drop off the cushion.
So you could drop off at half an hour, 15 minutes, or whatever it is, that you've got. Yeah. It's really just to provide support to help people get their bottom down on the chair or on the cushion. And it's fun to meditate together. What? We should end this, right? Oh, we're going to do the dedication of merit? Is that? Okay. So we're going to end. Okay. Right. By this merit, may all attain omniscience. May it defeat the enemy, wrongdoing, from the stormy waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death. From the ocean of samsara, may I free all beings. By the confidence of the golden sun of the great east, may the lotus garden of the Rigdon's wisdom bloom. May the dark ignorance of sentient beings be dispelled. May all beings enjoy profound, brilliant glory.